We all have shadows, parts of us that we don't want to see and we don't want others to see. But unless we face them head on, they become more and more powerful. I'll never forget my very, very first plant medicine ceremony where the shaman said to me, there is no way around it. The moment you start getting scared, the moment you start getting frightened, don't fight it, don't resist it, because the medicine always wins. And in that moment, when it became terrifying, I remembered his words and I went back into my breath and I just breathed through it. And the moment I did that, the moment I breathed through it, everything calmed down and I was transported into another realm. And I've heard so many stories and I have seen so many people where in these situations and circumstances like plant medicine ceremonies, they do resist, they do want to fight it, they don't want to look at it, and it becomes worse. It doesn't become better, it becomes worse. And so there is no way around the situation. With our shadows and with our fears, we need to face them head on. And only then we can see that we can actually work with them and our weaknesses can become our strengths as opposed to this force that we don't want to see and we don't want to deal with. And so I'll give you an example. So imagine that you are dealing with a difficult situation at work and there is something going on between you and a colleague and you just don't deal with it. You just pretend that everything is okay, but there's an undercurrent there, there's a feeling. And every time you go into the workplace, you feel this kind of constriction in your body. You can't speak properly. There's something going on, and you're just not dealing with what is actually happening in your life at that moment. And so it becomes worse because you're not dealing with it. So avoidance doesn't dissolve the shadow. Facing it, even though it's a difficult conversation to have, begins to dissolve what's actually there, but is not being said between the two of you or the three of you or however many people there are. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this topic today is because I'm reading and loving finally A Course in Miracles, which I've had this for a while, but it's only now that I'm actually at the place where I can really just absorb everything that I'm reading. And for those of you who don't know, A Course in Miracles is supposed to be the purest translation from Jesus. And so it is a channeled text. And once you start reading it and you're at the place where you are ready to read it, it is just the most beautiful, beautiful text there is. And so one of the metaphors that I was reading this morning in the Course in Miracles is about children who fear the dark and they fear monsters and they fear ghosts and they have all these fears. Now, those children that actually say something about it to their parents, those fears can be seen for what they are and they will end up dissolving. So the child says, "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so scared. There's a ghost in my room," or "There's something terrible in my room." And then Mum puts the light on, and it's actually just the shadow of a chair. And both child and parent can laugh about it. Same with us. If we admit to what our fears are, and we actually square off with our shadow, then we can laugh about it because then we realize that it is an illusion because no fear can actually be true. It's all illusion. So our inner fears work the same way. If we keep them in the dark, they will terrify us. But once we bring them to the light, they lose their power completely. And the Course in Miracles talks a lot about bringing our fears to the light. It's the same thing with any situation. So take our relationships. If we're constantly projecting onto other people that all men are like this and all men are like that, instead of looking within to see, well, what is it about me? What is the shadow part of me that is attracting this type of person in my life? Only then are we able to then stop that pattern, because we've observed it. It's gone from the subconscious to the conscious, and now we're able to break the pattern that we've been looping around for years and years and years. I'll tell you a really good trick. If you're using AI, which most of you probably are, ask AI this question, which is, what pattern am I unaware of? What pattern am I unaware of? And when I did this with AI this morning, it actually showed me 5 patterns that I was not consciously aware of, and it brought into my conscious awareness. And that is because AI is able to pick up from your questions and the things that you want to know, what kind of things are happening underneath the surface, what's going on in your subconscious. And so ask AI that question, and I'd love to know what it actually says. Put it in the comments below. And so other ways that fears can be ignored is, for example, if you're avoiding your finances, avoiding looking at your financial situation, just hoping that it will get better if you don't look at it. Whereas when you face it, you can actually do something about it. Another situation that I hear often is like putting off medical checks because you don't want to, be sick, and so therefore you don't want to know what's going on. Or you bypass it spiritually by saying, I'm fine, I don't believe in sickness. But then your actual beliefs are showing that you do believe in sickness, and that is why it's playing out in the physical world. So the longer we avoid our fears and our shadow, the more it morphs into something scarier in our mind that is harder to deal with later on. But always remember this, that your shadow is not always negative. Sometimes our shadow hides our true inner power. For example, if you have this fear of speaking up, there might be like this um, powerful voice that you're actually got right underneath there that needs to be shared with the world. There may be a deep, deep truth that you must share. And until you face that fear head on, you're not going to be able to do what you're here to do. And another way that we avoid our shadow is by spiritually bypassing it. So, as an example, one thing that came up for me was that when I'm feeling a certain emotion, I'm trying to justify that straight away. So, yesterday, for example, I felt angry, annoyed, and sad. And rather than allow the body to feel those emotions, I went for a walk and I went like, oh, that's fine. It's not what I'm really upset about, because it's not actually real. It's not about them. It's about me. And I went straight back into bypass mode and didn't even allow the body to feel the emotions, to experience the pain before I could release it. And so that's a very typical way that we spiritually bypass our shadows, because we don't pause for a moment to just allow the fears to be felt, because we are a human and it's okay to have a human experience. That's why we're in the human body. And then we can reframe it. Then we can see it from another perspective. But first, allow ourselves to feel it. Allow the emotion to be passed through the body so that it can be felt, so that it can be released. So when you do face your shadow, when you do face your fears, when you do face your emotions, it's not a one-stop shop and then that's it. There are layers and layers and layers, because the programming that we've all faced is not just something that's happened in our lifetime. This is generational. So over thousands of years, we are carrying the shadows of our ancestors, the programming and the fears of the generations before us. And so just by recognizing it one time does not mean that it's going to be gone. For most of us, there's layers and layers and layers. And so, what you're most afraid to face is often the exact thing that holds the key to your next level of freedom and your empowerment. So, as your awareness expands, deeper shadows actually then emerge. And the more your awareness expands, the deeper the shadow. And so, that's not a sign of failure. That's not as if we then need to say to ourselves, my God, when's this going to be over? Like, when is this all going to be done? I thought I dealt with that thing. Yeah, you dealt with that thing, but now there's a deeper thing. Now there's another deeper thing, and now there's a deeper thing. So if you've been avoiding something, see it as an invitation to walk through the next doorway of freedom. Because as you face it and you keep facing it and you keep facing it, you're bringing it to the light and it turns into your superpower. And so turn to avoid it, meet it, because the shadow that you fear is just the exact part of you that's just waiting on the sideline, waiting to be seen, waiting to be accepted, waiting to be understood, and waiting to be laughed. I've just said waiting to be laughed at. And the reason that I said laughed at rather than loved is because a scene just came into my mind where a number of years ago, I can't remember what year, I think it was 2016, one of my biggest fears was going on the stage and saying something funny, because I believe that there's nothing about me that was funny. I did 2 courses where I learned how to be funny, and I felt that I still wasn't funny. And then I was given an invitation to do a stage hypnosis show in the United States. And it was my biggest fear, which was to stand in front of an auditorium of people and put my skills on display for people to potentially make fun of. And once I realized that it was my biggest fear, because initially I said, no, I'm not doing that. There's no way I'm doing that. I'm not going to put myself through that. It feels like it's going to be excruciating and I can't make people laugh anyway. And who am I to be standing on the huge stage in the United States to be doing stage hypnosis on multiple people at the same time? Well, as it turns out, I did say no, but the person that I said no to wouldn't accept my no and basically demanded for me to reconsider. And once I reconsidered and I realized that it was a fear and there was no reason for me to be held back because of that fear, I then said yes, because I reasoned that people would be laughing either at me or with me. Either way, they're going to be laughing. And so that was a really terrifying moment. And it was at a college campus in front of many hundreds of people. And I did do stage hypnosis. And as it turned out, which is what I knew would happen in the end, as soon as I stepped on that stage, I was supported. I was supported by something higher than me because I was serving my purpose. And it was an incredible success. And so that was me facing my biggest fear, which is thinking that I can't make people laugh and I wouldn't be able to do stage hypnosis, when in fact I absolutely could. And so it is about also just with that laugh word, laughing. I mean, I didn't say that by mistake. I consciously said that by mistake, but I think I subconsciously was supposed to say it because we just take ourselves far too seriously. We take this world far too seriously. This world is our creation and is the illusion. And I know that every time I say those words, there will be people that will not understand that, and there will people that will be rolling their eyes. When I have entered another realm, I have seen it as the illusion. And yet we take everything so seriously. We take ourselves so seriously. If we don't say something in a polished way, it's like, oh, I've got to do that again. And I put my hand up and admit that as well. And that stops me from doing more videos. And so this life that we've created is an illusion. It's a dream. It's not reality. It's a stage show. It's a movie. And we're here to experience all of it with joy and fun, and even the scary rides, and even the rides that are fearful and scary. We're still here to experience that as well, and to allow that experience to be part of the soul's experience in this lifetime, and face it head on and understand that nothing is that serious, because in the blink of an eye, we're going to be gone. And so if this video resonated with you, and if you'd like me to expand on any of these concepts, please, 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 please put your comments below. I would love to talk about it. And in the meantime, face those shadows full on. You can't bypass them. It's almost like with this illusion called life, there are so many different levels, like video game levels, and you're not going to get to the next level unless you face it. You can't go around it. You can't cheat your way around it. You need to face it head on. And once you face it, once you see it, once you feel that in your body is then able to experience another level for it to then go, oh, I can do that. I can feel that. I'm still alive. And then it goes to the next level. And then it goes to the next level. So just facing every single thing head on. The time has come, especially if you're a light worker, especially if you're here to lead others, especially if you're here to teach others that fear is the illusion and the only truth is love, and that we need to face those fears, face those shadows, do it anyway, and move on. And so the only way that we can do that is if we live in truth and not in the illusion. And so please, please, always, always, always live in truth. Love to hear your words. I'd love for you to like this video so that I can be enticed to share so much more. I've got so much more to share. Sending you so much love.